Hello, online pipe community. Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here, and today we have another Meals from Mensch. We're going to talk about Carolina barbecue. Got some sweet tea going. Let me set that down for a sec. I did not know it when I married, but I married into North Carolina barbecue royalty. You see, my wife's great uncle Swicegood opened the second whole hog open pit barbecue shop in Salisbury, which is just down the road from Lexington, which is my favorite style of North Carolina Q. Now, in North Carolina, if you start out in the mountains, the sauces that you have are a little thicker, more like a Tennessee sauce. As you move toward the coast, around the center of the state in the Piedmont, you have Lexington barbecue. Now, this is a vinegar base, but it does have a little bit of tomato in it. The farther you go toward that coast, however, the less and less tomato you're going to get until finally you reach places on the coast that just have vinegar and pepper and or hot peppers. Carolina is known for those. So there are a variety of styles, all vinegar based, in North Carolina. Now, barbecue. Throughout most of the South, barbecue is a noun. It is not a verb. You do not barbecue. You come up with or create barbecue. Well, how do you do that? By smoking either a whole hog on an open pit, if you have that available, or like I do, a Boston butt or pork shoulder over a home smoker. And that is exactly what we're going to do today, and I'm going to show you just how incredibly easy it can be. Let's just go take a peek. Outside under my gazebo, we are going to show you the first necessity for smoking barbecue, and that is smoke. It's a lot easier than you may think. I am not paid or endorsed by a pit barrel cooker company. I do, however, absolutely love this original size pit barrel cooker. I can get a couple of big pork shoulders, a couple of big turkeys, bunches of full slabs of ribs. It's a good size. Now, they have a bigger one that will hold a lot more. They also have a smaller one for those who just don't need to smoke nearly as much. But the way this sucker works, you fill up this pan with charcoal, and I heap it up. It takes about 8 or 9 pounds of good hardwood-based charcoal to get that filled up. And then you pull off about 40 briquettes into your chimney for starting. Now, the main tray here, this main pan, is going to get put back down in the bottom of the barrel. And once those briquettes in the chimney, they don't have to ash over, but they got to get pretty hot. They need to be ashed mostly up, and the top ones need to be lit. Then we'll dump those in there, and we'll have a very, very long smoke out of just that amount of charcoal. I'm going to get her lit. We'll be back in a little while. While that charcoal is getting itself nice and lit, let me show you what we do to prep this shoulder. I've got a barbecue rub that I have adapted heavily from one that I found online well over a decade ago, and I've completely changed around the proportions and everything. It will show up right here. Now, another thing that is necessary for North Carolina style Q is a vinegar sauce. I happen to use my own rub in making this vinegar sauce, and the recipe for that will be right there. Now, I am not going to show you me making those things, because all it is mixing up some spices and then blending them together well with a couple of vinegars and some ketchup. So you guys can do all of that on your own. I will, though, I'll show you what the end product looks like. So in case you make this and you're going, well, does this look right? You'll be able to have something to compare to. The rub is a red sandy color that is true to form right there. Once you have mixed it in with the vinegar and ketchup, it is a thin sauce. You can see that pour right off the spoon. But it has, you got to keep it mixed up well, but it does have all of those lovely spices suspended in it. Yeah, sure, when you serve it on the table, you're still going to want to shake it up a little bit, but it does a pretty good job of mixing up. Let me show you what the pork looks like once it's rubbed. And here you have the pork butt covered with my homemade rub. What I typically do, and yes, it's covered on all sides, but on the two largest sides, I will let it sit in between coatings until the moisture gets pulled up to the surface into the rub, and then I will put more on top until it quits absorbing more. And that will create a nice, tasty, crunchy bark or crust around the entire shoulder. Now, one thing that you'll notice here, I am hanging this, so I put meat hooks for the pit barrel cooker in. Make sure that you put them in far enough down that they are in muscle, not just at a fat layer, because as this cooks, that fat is going to melt away first couple hours, and it can fall in if you leave it in too long or if you haven't got your hooks in. We'll be pulling this and setting it horizontally after most of that fat has cooked off, which, like I said, just takes the first couple hours. Well, let's get this out there over some smoke and get it started. There you can see the hot coals on top of the rest of the charcoal in that pan. Got my shoulder hanging right there in the middle over that smoke. And we are going to set the cover on this and let it go for a couple hours before we check it to see just how loose it's getting and put it on a grate instead of hanging. Be back in a bit. What do you do while you're smoking some Q? Well, enjoy a pipe, of course. This is one of those small Briarworks tuxedo bulldogs. In it, maple shadows. Delicious, delicious stuff. We'll talk about that more on Tuesday. For now, I'm going to get back to my SEC football, which should be over tonight by the time my meat's ready to pull off the smoker. We'll see y'all in a bit. Here you can see I have pulled it off the hooks. I put it fat side down so that will continue to drip directly into the charcoal, which you can see is flaring up a bit. I need to get the cover back on so that will settle back down into a smoke. And the temperature check was right at 150, so we're about 10 degrees away from a typical stall. That doesn't happen on this, so we'll just power right through that and check it again in a couple hours. So this is what the pork shoulder looks like when it hits exactly 203 degrees out there. 203 is the magic number because that is the point at which all of the connective tissues inside the pork butt should have dissolved and melted throughout the meat. So there should not be any chewy spots due to that connective tissue. It should all have broken down by this point. Next step is to actually pull it apart. We'll let you see what that looks like with all that nice crunchy bark mixed in. And that, folks, is what it looks like once you've got it pulled apart. I use these nifty little bear claw devices that lets you just cross-cut, pull the meat. Notice all of that nice dark bark mixed all throughout the meat. There's just such awesome flavor in all of that. And the smoke ring on this one, you can see so many pieces that are bright pink. The smoke ring penetrated about 1.5 inches or so into the meat. So it was pretty deeply embedded with smoke flavor. And folks, that's all it takes to make North Carolina style barbecue. About 8 hours on the smoker, but I included my recipes and basically step-by-step instructions. So fire up your own smoker. Let me know how it comes out.